Got that. So everybody, once again, this is Jason Matthews with Matthews Financial and Insurance Solutions, along with President CEO of Gibson Monroe Wealth Advisors. Right now, we are doing our monthly recap on what happened in the previous month. So we always say this is our monthly economic and market recap. We always want to put you in position to make the best decision for you, your family, your business, and your community overall. So let's dial into what happened in the month of February for you to understand where we think that things might be going month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, or even longer down the road right now. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And once again, thank you for taking the time out to listening to this, as I think it's highly important, especially in this period of time that we are in. So once again, with the market economic recap, the first thing we always like to start off with is talking about the three major indexes. The three major indexes, when we talk about equities, aka stocks, are the Dow Jones Average, which is the 30 biggest public stock-owned companies, the S&P 500, which is your 500 biggest publicly owned companies, and then the NASDAQ, which is known for all our technology stocks. So all three major indexes was negative or down for the month of February. So the Dow was down 4.2%, the S&P was down 2.6%, and then the NASDAQ was down 1.1%. The resource and the source for this was MarketWatch. Everything you have, my team put together. I want to definitely give out a shout out to our team as they work extensively to make sure we have this out in a promptu time early in the month for you guys. So next, let's talk about these inflation numbers, because right now, the big thing we've been hearing now for over a year is inflation. So inflation for the month of January was at 6.4%, which is huge numbers right now. Is still not as high as in June and July, where June we had 9.1%. But a lot of us are still seeing inflation like crazy. Another last month, the biggest talk was eggs and how much eggs went up. Right last month, they said that eggs were up year over year 70%. So let's say you bought your eggs was $10 last year, now they were $17 this year, which is a huge number. So let's dig a little bit deeper in inflation. So inflation reared its ugly head again in January, dashing out deflation. So what people were hoping was that inflation has been going down and down and down for the last 5 or 6 months, and we was hoping that inflation continued to decrease. But instead of doing that, inflation actually put its head up and went up a little bit. So it went up 0.5% month over month. So inflation in February was higher than the inflation in January. So increased annual inflation is at 6.4%. That outpaced the predictions of 0.5% monthly increase, but only 6.2% that we thought we was going to get. Let me say that again. So we thought inflation was only going to be 6.2% for the month, but instead it was 6.4%, right? Also, December inflation numbers, once it got revised, was revised 1.1% increase that month. So inflation was higher than what they told us originally, right? But when we're looking at core inflation, which doesn't include energy and food costs, inflation rose 5.6% year over year, 0.4% up from the previous month, both surpassing estimates that they expected to be. So the next time we hear inflation numbers is going to be March 14th. And on March 14th, dial back in, follow our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, as we will be talking about that on March 14th, the new CPI inflation numbers. So with that being said, the Feds rose in the numbers for interest rates in February, 25 basis points. So the new Fed fund rate is 0.5% to 0.7%. This represents 2 meetings in a row where Fed scaled back the size of the increase. But with these new numbers getting up, we're hearing economists thinking that instead of being a 25-point base increase, we're going to see possibly a 50 basis points increase with the new numbers. But simply, we don't know that. Also, there's more and more of this 2% target goal that the Federal Reserve have. It seems like that number in that goal is disappearing. So the Federal Reserve will have the next meeting where they will announce the new interest rates March 21st and 22nd. We'll get on this again, do a Facebook Live discussing what the new interest rates are and how does it affect you, your family, and the community abroad, and all your investments. So let's switch gears now. Let's talk about the jobs and unemployment numbers. So the U.S. Labor Department's February 3rd report saw that non-farm payrolls jumped 517,700 in January, which blew the past forecast of 188,000. So let's talk about this. So what the Federal Reserve want to do is what they call a soft landing. They're trying to slow down the economy to fight inflation. Part of that is they want people to get laid off and lose their jobs, because when the job market is red hot, employers cannot hire good people. What they have to do is increase their wages, increase their benefits so that people can get paid more during that period of time. And instead of them coming out of pocket for that, what they're going to do is increase the cost of everything they sell. So it's going to increase inflation even more, right? So adding that 500,000 jobs that we had dropped the unemployment rate to 3.4%, lower than the predicted 3.6% that they thought, and lower than the previous month in unemployment rate at 3.5%. So where was the biggest job gains? It was in a couple of places. One was the hospitality industry had 128,000 new jobs in January. Professional and business services rose 82,000, and government employees went up 74,000, and healthcare 58,000. The new employment numbers is going to come out March 10th for what happened in the month of February. So let's talk about GDP, gross domestic product, how much our economy is growing. So the real gross domestic product rose 7.2% in the fourth quarter of 2022, which was released February 24th. That marks a notable decrease of 0.2% compared to the 2.9% growth in Q4, which they're saying is that, hey, the economy is slowing down more than it's slowing down. What we might have an issue with, and what everybody's fearful for, is that they fear that we might have a period of stagflation. And stagflation is when the economy is being stagnant, but inflation is still going up. Because usually when the economy is stagnant, what you want to do is the feds want to print more money to get us out of it. But with inflation, what you're trying to do is take money out of it. So you had, because right now that means you have too much money going down. So the biggest thing that made that revision was consumer spending was the biggest contributor to GDP, which shrank more than expected. So people are starting to hold back. I remember Christmas time, people saying, I don't want to buy as much this Christmas because I am worried about the economy. So we have to consider that. Let's talk a little bit about that consumer spending. Remember, consumer spending is 2/3 of the economy, which is a huge thing. So U.S. consumer spending rose 1.8% in January. That was the largest gain in nearly 2 years as consumers face higher prices due to inflation. So it's not that consumers are buying the Louis bag and the Gucci and new belts and suits and cars. It's that what people are noticing is just buying those essential things are going up more and more. So people are automatically paying for more for things, which doesn't mean that's necessarily a good thing. So with that being said, we have to be very conscious of that. Also, consumer spending, even like I said, accounts for 2/3. January, the 2% increase was the largest bump up since March 2021, which is this. People are spending more money, right? It's just a face of fact. People are spending more money because they have to buy more money, buy more things. I got to pay more for those $10, $17, the outrageous eggs because there's low supply. We have to pay more for those energy prices in December. It's been cold out here. Not just here in California, it's cold, and they say it never gets cold here, but we have to pay more for our energy bills, and everybody sees that across the country. So how are consumers spending? How is consumers really doing it? It's not that their wages have been going up. No, wages have not caught up with inflation, but their goods and services went up, right? And yes, we're seeing increases, but not job increase like we expected. So what are consumers doing? Consumers are getting more and more in debt. So household debt in the fourth quarter broke a record with $16.9 trillion, which is an alarming rate. The fourth quarter increase was because 2.4 increase came from the previous quarter. So back in COVID, people was getting all this money and paying down debt. Now we're going back in what we were doing before and breaking all-time highs in debt, right? And now that is a big issue. Credit card balances swelled 6.6% during the fourth quarter, right? So we're hearing about how people are not buying, not how the housing market is slowing down for the number of homes sold. So and then we know about the refi market in this refi market is dead, right? Compared to what it was during COVID. So what people are doing is taking on more and more credit card debt. And the problem is with the credit card debt, which went up 15.2% year over year, is that interest rates are rising. And with interest rates rising, people are paying more to service that debt. Their minimums are higher. Everything is higher. So we have to take that in consideration. So let's talk about the housing market, right? I talked about it before. We keep hearing about housing market, all the news about it. So the Fed kept hiking their benchmark interest rates, damping inflation in Q4. But by the end of January 23, people are getting more optimistic about mortgage rates, as now they're settling closer to more at 6%. And I feel like when interest rates first jumped up last year, people had to get mentally adjusted from going to a very, very historical low interest rates of people getting 2.25, 2.5%, now to regular normals, which is now at 6%. But with these interest rates getting higher, people are expecting by the summer that interest rates would go up to 7%, which is a lot bigger different than what we had during 2020 and 2021. So right now, home prices have not plummeted. They're still positive year over year, but the peak of home prices was usually in May and June, which is a crazy thing. But the bigger problem we have is a home sales volume. I know on the West Coast, home sales are right now down, not just the Western region of the country is down about 43% in the last report I've seen. So right now, the bigger problem is home sales value. The buyers are just not buying because they cannot afford it. Home prices have not dropped, but interest rates rising, so they're paying more for a mortgage. And people say, you know what, I can't afford to be in the housing. So we have affordability issue right now. And I think one thing is either home builders are going to have to increase the number of homes, people have to put more homes on the market, or home prices are going to have to drop for people to afford it overall. So, so the question is, do you guys feel like Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, do you guys think he should get a pay raise? Right now, his annual salary is $190,000. I personally think he does. He's the most powerful man in the world. He only makes $190,000. So do you feel like Jerome Powell should get more than $190,000? That $190,000, right, was the same amount that he got in 2012. And now he is running the biggest economy in the world. So I do think that he has an increase. This is just a little note for you. So this is the man, Jerome Powell. So with that being said, here's a great noble quote. It's better to be roughly right than precisely wrong. That came from John Keynes, the father of modern macroeconomics, right? So once again, if you guys have any questions, give us a call at 510-229-7608 or give us an email. Thank you guys all so much for watching this. I hope this impact you so you can make better decisions for your family, especially as we're over with the era of cheap, free money is over with during this period of inflation. Hope you have a great day and a great weekend.